too. Hey,
That is cool.
I haven't heard that intro in a long time. I'm Craig Fitzgerald, and I am the host of NEMPA LiveStream, and I'm here with my pal Dan Roth today.
I was going to introduce myself. Yeah, I'm sorry, but keep going, Craig.
I know I kind of staggered us with the.
That's all right.
with the intro that I made with AI. It's pretty good. So Dan, it has been a while since we've talked. How you doing?
I'm doing great, actually, and it's really fun to come on. I'm trying to be the universal guest for a lot of shows, as we also get into more podcasting with the other channels I'm on, and I have some things in the works that are going to be cool.
We call that a professional guest.
Yeah,
show up for anything.
Right, and just send money.
Yeah, that's right.
Tens and 20s.
Doing this. Nobody's getting paid, Dan. You know,
no, that's true. Yeah. Look, if we wanted to sell Squarespace or
that's right.
Supplements,
Adam and Eve, sure.
Whatever.
Get going. Come on, guys. We'd love to have you.
Yeah.
I'll do a better health plug here and be like everybody else's podcast.
Sure. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sure. And what have you been up to recently?
So I did my turn through large corporate auto with Ford, and then small startup EV with Slate, and then went into high tech for a hot minute with a company that's based here in Massachusetts. Just decided that it was time for more creative endeavors. I found myself spending my days in Excel and PowerPoint and measuring and strategically planning, which is all important stuff, but I like to make things and do the words and pictures and stuff. So I'm out now sort of between those main gigs. Basically the pitch is like, how much communication you see every day sucks. I fix that and focusing on a few industries that I think are really, really interesting. So like just last Friday, I was at a Massachusetts Clean Energy Center conference. And so there's a lot of stuff cooking at the Mass CEC that's really interesting for building retrofits, but also for EVs. Like you've heard about the technician shortage and just people's understanding of still converting to EV. And I think that might be kind of important in the next few months.
That's exactly, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about was, I think in the general public, people have this attitude like that EVs are done. Like we're just, we're not given the $7,500 credit anymore, so nobody's going to buy these things. And there might be a little bit of truth in that, in a way. But when you look at the sales of, Model Y, for example, I mean, it's still a top 5 selling car, despite the fact that the CEO is actively trying to submarine the company. They're still selling well. Like so my feeling is that if you make the right car, people will come and buy it, right? Whether it's powered by electricity or gas or whatever. So, and your experience at Ford and Slate were both sort of involved in that whole period, where major manufacturers are trying to, get out there and sell these things as much as possible. Plus, you've got startups coming like Slate that are trying to do the same thing. So I'm really interested in your perspective of kind of where we are right now and what you're thinking about the industry.
You kind of put a good sort of intro on it. The thing that I think we all should remember is we're 10 plus years into the Model S being available, even more than that, 10 plus years into the Model 3. Right. That dropped in like 16. So that wasn't that expensive when it landed, that particular car. And the difference between now and 10 years ago is there's a lot of used EVs on the market. And there will be a few shifts. Like charging is better. It's still not great. It's still not great for, I mean, I need to sort of back up on that. It's still not as good as it could be.
Right.
It's the concern about range is going to be one of those things that just is there until it's not. And people will
Yep.
get used to it, and then it will kind of go away. You can take a cross country trip in your EV right now.
Yep.
You might have to plan a little bit. That's fine. The idea of knocking down 500 miles a day, like, when do you do that in a gas car? Come on, like,
Right.
let's be real. But the competition, even for new EVs, even without the tax break, fierce. You are going to see eventually somebody's going to crack the normal person price barrier,
Right.
and have something that's like 30 grand that's not completely stripped out. The Nissan Leaf was actually there for a very long time.
Right. Right. Exactly. And you know, like my theory with all of this is like, if you look at the adoption curve for hybrids, right? We've had hybrids now for a quarter century.
Mm-hmm.
It took almost 20 years to get to 1 million units a year. Like,
Yep.
The adoption curve was forever, and nobody ever said, "Oh, nobody's buying these," or you know, whatever. I mean, there was that initial like Prius. You know, a lot of people made jokes about Prius, but then all of a sudden you got a hybrid Camry, you got a hybrid, you know, Malibu. You've got like, it is just a better way to get back and forth to work and not spend as much money on fuel. That's what it is.
Do you have a hybrid at all? Or have you considered one?
So yes, I would consider a hybrid for sure. I mean, and actually my favorite hybrid is the Maverick. Like, when it launched, it was not only the cheapest pickup in America, it was the cheapest hybrid. And to me, it showed the potential. You know, now you've got a pickup truck that'll do all your suburban pickup truck stuff and still deliver 45 miles to the gallon, which is super impressive. I'm driving a Lobo right now. And that car which I like a lot, but you know, with a 2-liter turbo and you know a 7-speed versus an 8-speed, all of a sudden I'm getting 25 miles to the gallon out of that, where I know I could get 20 better than that. So you know, it's a great platform. It's the right size, and the money was right, and it kind of still is. Yeah, you know, I mean, I understand that it's a lot more expensive than when it started, but at the same time, it's still pretty reasonable. So it's like, apply that whole adoption curve to EVs, and you realize how far ahead EVs really were. You know, especially during the pandemic, I think, when people started really paying attention.
Oh yeah, and there was a lot of things that came together to make the pandemic a kind of a weird time. You know, you had supply chain issues, you had supplier fires, you had all kinds of stuff that just you had chip shortages, all kinds of stuff that just hit the entire industry, and then nobody had anything, and we're all cooped up, and so there was inventory pressure, and automakers discovered the magic of restricting supply equals higher revenue. And they didn't want to lose that, so it taught them a few things, but it also got us further along on EV adoption. And it's going to be fits and starts. The hybrid example is really interesting because there was tons of pushback from the industry and even enthusiasts. I remember not being a particular fan of the Prius, and part of that was the way it was presented. It's kind of a joyless car. And, and the owners were a particular kind of, you know, the car became a symbol of the owner and a certain outlook and thing. And nobody really loves that kind of thing. But the car itself is actually really good. I find myself recommending the Prius a lot now, and I actually really like the
I think the new one is fantastic.
Yeah.
You know,
but it's a cockroach. It's it proves that it's durable. It's more durable than a straight gas car. It's just gonna go forever. The electric stuff isn't unreliable. You know, there's issues, especially with the Prius, like the batteries need a little bit of service, but the knowledge and repair options are out there.
I mean, you can swap a battery in that yourself. You really can. I mean, I watched somebody do it on YouTube, and it was like, that takes all of the concern about those things right off the table, and especially as the cost of those things is just falling through the floor. Which I'll tell you, a transmission, for a gas vehicle is not.
Nope.
That's more expensive than ever, right?
Yeah. And gas engines have this weird issue now where they forgot how to build them.
Right.
You got a lot of oil burning, you got engines dropping valve seats and just unreliability. They do genius measures like drive the oil pump with the toothed rubber belt.
Yep.
Seems like a bad idea.
Yep.
And so what it is everybody's looking for efficiency when a lot of times straight electrification is the way to get to efficiency. So I think we may see the curve kind of wobble a little bit, but if you zoom out over time, it's only going to go up because it makes a better car. And I like noise and drama and horsepower as much as the next guy, but most people don't care. And EVs are a better driving experience.
That's the thing. You and I, we wade into arguments with people who are enthusiasts for the most part, right? But that's the literal 1% now. Like, nobody's an enthusiast.
No.
Look at, go out in the parking lot at Target and look at the cars that people are driving. There isn't a single cool car out there. My son's high school parking lot, which used to be, when you and I were growing up in the, 1800s.
Yeah.
It was like Dazed and Confused, we
had Conestoga wagons and
it was great, super cool cars everywhere. There isn't there's one kid that my son hangs around with who's got a Thunderbird Super Coupe that is literally the coolest car in the parking lot, which nobody would ever. It is pretty neat. Right?
That's a good one.
But so that is all gone. People just want a way to get to work, and an EV represents a better way. But what I saw from the conventional, legacy auto manufacturers were they went to two extremes, right? So the first extreme was the Leaf, which was a fine little car, but nothing that anybody would really want to drive everywhere.
Right.
It was like, this is about efficiency, and we're going to put it in the least pleasant automobile that you can imagine. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So here's one extreme. And then they look at Tesla and they say, wait a minute now. We want to get in on some of that $100,000, Tesla Model Plaid money. And we're going to build EVs that are the most expensive cars you can buy. Neither one of those impulses is the right thing. It's just, you've got to convince people to get into these, and you've got to put it in a form factor that people are going to understand and appreciate. Right?
Yeah. Well, that's the thought shift too. Like, those two cars are really those are the poster children for what happened, for decades and decades and decades. Efficiency for the entire auto industry was a penalty box.
Small, cheap, yes.
Yeah, because they strip everything out and they make it not nice and cheap. And with EVs, the powertrain is the expensive part. The battery costs as much as the rest of the car usually.
Right.
So it's tough. So that it makes it tough to get it at the price point. So they all watched what Tesla did, and Tesla launched upside down. So they not really upside down, but they went after the luxury market first to get those early adopters. So it was, and automakers have tended to do that as well. They usually launch the nicer trims of a new model first, but it was just kind of concentrated with Tesla, the way they went about it. Right. And the thing that Tesla also did, though, at the same time, was they were just aggressively stripping cost out of that car, and not in a like a cheap out way. We can talk about personal opinions about Tesla some other time, but just if you go from Model S to Model 3, the difference is really stark. They learned a lot. There's tons of innovative engineering in the Model 3 to reduce costs, make it cheaper to build. Some of that is great. Some of that is actually not as good for the long-term ownership experience, but you're seeing the industry pick up on it. So one of the biggest examples is like the large scale castings, aluminum castings that make up the structure.
Yeah.
it replaces a bunch of parts with one part, and the whole assembly, like it makes it go together better, more repeatable quality, is less expensive. The problem is repairability usually
Sure.
goes down,
Right.
and so you wind up with a throwaway car for the most part.
Yep.
But that's what you have to do to get it at
I
that
mean,
price.
really, when you look across the board at everything, I don't care what cars are much more disposable now than they ever were. Collision costs are off the chart for anything. Like, if you need a bumper cover and the sensors that run your,
Uh-huh.
your backup alerts, you can total the car, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's an issue for everybody. But I definitely get your point. Like, that then becomes completely unrepairable when the collision happens.
Yeah, luckily it's made out of aluminum, which is like,
Right.
there's a high
Totally
percentage of
recyclable. Yep.
recyclability, but
Yep.
but that's an issue. Like you said, it's an issue for everyone, and it is kind of a quiet issue with EVs, though.
Yeah.
Is just that insurability on top of everything else. That's one of the hidden costs of ownership. That you can get the price down even without the $7,500 credit, which
Right.
was great. There's still state credits out there, depending
Yeah.
on where you live. So it's not without its benefits to own an EV, and
Right.
depending on your electric rate, you're gonna spend less overall,
Sure.
and just start every day with a full tank of gas or full
Yep.
tank of energy. So there's it's still a compelling case. They go in the snow real nice because they're heavy. They have heat and cooling.
Balance. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good experience. We have a 4xe Grand Cherokee, so it's a plug-in
Yeah.
hybrid. I like it best when it's in hybrid mode. You only get, in EV mode, and you only get like 30 miles out of it, but it drives much better as an EV
Yeah.
than it does as a gas car.
Yeah, I remember when I think it was the Mitsubishi Outlander
Mm-hmm.
plug-in hybrid, which was what, Nissan Rogue? Is that right? Or
So the first plug-in Outlander was actually all Mitsubishi.
that was all Mitsubishi, right?
It was an old platform. It was the GS platform that goes
Right,
way
correct.
back.
But
Yeah.
then the second plug-in hybrid, I think, had the most range you could get out of a plug-in hybrid at the moment.
Yeah.
And it was like 30 something miles.
Right.
And to me, that was like, that's almost doable.
Yeah.
Where I live, I could get into Waltham, Massachusetts, right, and back on 30 miles a charge. And
Yeah.
that all of a sudden becomes kind of compelling because, like, I need to run the gas engine during the week. Like, that would be awesome to have that available. And
Yeah.
in my EV choices, when people ask me about EVs, I'm always trying to lean them towards things like, what's the small Hyundai?
Oh, the Ioniq.
No,
the
not
Niro?
the Ionic's great. It's the Niro, right?
Yeah. Or that's the Kia. I don't know what the Hyundai version is. Yeah.
Hyundai, I can't remember what it's called. But to me, those were like, oh, this is the best of both worlds. Like, you can put 5 people in it. It's got some storage space. It's, but the battery's small, and you could charge that almost on your regular wall socket overnight. You obviously you want a level 2 charger at home, but it's almost doable with that, and you get enough range to get back and forth to work. Like, what more are you looking for here? That's kind of the great entry level to me, to figure out whether you want to own one of these things or not.
Yeah, for sure. And the amount of used EVs coming up on the market is going to continue to just create more adoption. People are going to try it because they're not that expensive. They're expensive to fix. They're expensive-ish to own new, just because they're usually higher priced cars. But their residual value.
The 500e is a pretty nice little car for for like $9, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So you're going to see a lot of cheap EVs, and it's it's different because they don't have the time bombs, right? Like they don't have the CVT
Timing
that
belts.
blows up, or, right? It's an electric motor.
Yep.
It works or it doesn't. And even if the batteries degrade, you still get a lot of use out of the car, especially if your commute is, what is the average? 12 miles one way, so about 25 miles round trip. I think is around the average. It might be different now, but that's not much. And
Yeah.
if you can charge at work too, even on 110, you're going to put a little bit of range in. And the large battery, small battery thing. So we've got enormous vehicles with enormous batteries. They take a lot of energy
Yeah.
to charge and to charge quickly. So we're seeing the top end, the fast charging. The car has to be compatible with it, but the chargers also have to be able to do it. And
Yep.
that's developing. But the Slate thing was really interesting because they had a small battery, and
Right.
it's still plenty of range. Like 150, I think, or 180 on the regular battery, and then over to like 220 or something with the larger battery. That's plenty for a day, or for multiple days, and it's small enough that you can charge it on a lower speed charger and still top it up in a reasonable amount of time.
Right.
So there's a balance. I see what happens as automakers lost their nerve. They did that first generation, and like specifically, I saw Ford kind of lose their nerve a little bit, and maybe that's just because I was inside a bit. But they had the Mach-E, they had the Lightning, they were working on their universal EV platform that's coming out. That was a big change. That's going to be a change that affects the whole company and just the way they build cars. It's almost like Ford's Saturn, if you want to think of it that way. Right. But they lost their nerve a little bit when the winds started to shift, and they're under such pressure. The margins are thin in car making. It's not they look big, but they're like, they just don't, like, the numbers wise, but they don't make as much. So they've got to be careful, and there were a lot of reasons why the sales for things like the Lightning really fell off. I think they discovered a lot of cracks in their business too, just the way they're set up with franchise dealers, and changing the product out from under them. So there's a lot to it. We can do a whole episode about
that's a good point. There's like, if you're, a Sears store, that's a good, let's just use that, right? There's the corporate entity, and then there's all the individual Sears stores below that. You can walk into one of them and it's basically the same experience walking into one versus another. The franchise auto business really means that you're going to walk into a dealer and get a completely different experience, a sales experience, especially on EVs, than you would anywhere else. So a good, I look at, I spent a lot of time in Portland, Maine. I have noticed a ton of Lightnings running around up there, and especially the Pro trim level. I can't remember.
Oh, that's like the most Maine thing ever.
Right. So very affordable, compared to the $100,000 trucks they really wanted to sell. The Pro trim was relatively inexpensive. You got a good tax break for it, and there was a dealer there that was good at selling them, right? Good at explaining what the value is for, hey, look, you're not going 300 miles a day in this thing. You're running around, you're a contractor. So they found a core of people that were interested in that, and they managed to sell them. But that's not replicated throughout the Ford sales network. They just don't have enough dealers that are willing to commit. Right.
Well, it's difficult for a lot of reasons, and GM also, like, I see them kind of losing their nerve a bit, and Chrysler, Stellantis, we don't need to talk about that.
Right.
But the biggest issue, I think, in understanding the dealer side of it is they make money from the service lanes. They really don't make a ton on new cars.
Right.
And they also make some on used cars, but they're real profit center. is what they call their fixed operations, which
Yep.
is service. Now you're selling them a car that doesn't need oil changes.
Right.
It doesn't need timing belts at 100,000 miles. It may need tires more because it's heavy, but other than that, like they're trouble free for the most part. They might need some EV service from time to time, but it's not the same. So you're hitting them really where it hurts, and you've got a confusing product, and you've got a skeptical public,
Yeah.
and you don't have any control over, or as much control as you really need over the sales training. They try, but it's a high turnover environment as well. I don't know if you've ever tried auto sales. I haven't.
No, thank you.
I would not be good at it. But it's not.
It's funny. Like the people that I know that are most passionate about cars have all tried it, and they all universally
because it's
walked
not
out in 6 months.
It's because it's not the same. So that's the other side where all the upstarts can kind of get a toehold, is they change the retail experience. So Tesla owns their stores, they own their distribution and getting the cars to the customer. They own the transaction. You can go online and buy a Tesla,
and they own the charging network. Like that to me was the biggest error in legacy manufacturers, is that they all absolve themselves of having to deal with that part of it, which was the biggest part. The charging experience for a Tesla is better, and it's more plentiful than anybody else's. And they, it was like, we're just going to give it, and it wasn't even like we're going to give this very important responsibility to established company. They're all fly-by-night operations. Like there's 5 of them. You got to have 6 different apps. You get, it's insane. It's insane that they let that go.
And but they knew better too. Like how do you think we got gas cars? GM and DuPont and Standard Oil. They all worked together.
A handshake deal to make this happen. And all of the issues that people will regularly cite, that they've had with EVs, Tesla people are not having these issues, right? So, what's the wild card here? It's like you can drive across the country in a Tesla, right? And people do it. I wouldn't say regularly, because most people don't regularly.
Most people don't drive across the country.
They don't. That's always the example. Oh, I tow a Bobcat every day, and at 35,000 pounds, I get. It's like, okay, well, you're one guy. You're the wild edge case here.
But it's like, it's not the right car for you then. It's not the right truck for you.
Exactly.
Fine. Like that we have one over here. That's great for you. Put your guys who are right now driving the gas F-150s around 10 miles a day and leaving it idling the whole time. Put them in the pro version of.
Look, man, I rode a motorcycle every day. Right, that's not for everybody. But nobody's out there saying like nobody should own these things, because, or how foolish they are. I guess they do, but regardless, nobody's trying to end the business because they don't want to ride one.
I mean, Harley's doing a pretty good job on their own.
Right, I know.
Of ending their own business.
Like, oh my God. Oh, geez. Unbelievable.
But and that's there is the supercharging network is the customer experience, and anywhere that you kind of brush up against the customer is the place where Tesla and some of the upstarts have considered it to a degree. Some still fall down because it's just expensive to set that up, and like the apps and the support and the amount of people it takes. You can't replace the people with AI when it comes to customer interaction. But it's really easy. You go on, you click, you make your selections, and boom, you can go pick up the car, or they'll drop it off. If you need service, fine, they come out, and it's funny because they usually drive a Ford Transit. But they'll come out and they'll fix it. Now all the other automakers are looking into mobile service. That's becoming more prominent. But again, it's like a dealer level thing, so they have to incentivize the dealers to do it, set them up with the thing to do it. But the supercharger network is probably the biggest piece of value in Tesla,
Yeah.
and they're leasing it out to other automakers. So if you have Mach-E was a good example. And I just know this because it was a big deal when we announced it, but they did a deal with Tesla. So you have access to the supercharger network. Rivian, access to the supercharger network. So you get the best charge.
You know, like you can get access to that now. So all of that seems like, you know, that seems to be going away. Things are improving. And then also simultaneously, something that you and I had talked a little bit about earlier was like the vehicles that aren't making it are just getting cut out, you know. So the one that we talked a bit about was the Volvo EX30, which, you know, honestly, I have never been so happy to see a car go away ever. Like, I've been doing this for 27 years. I don't think I ever disliked a car so much. And it had nothing to do with it being an EV. It was all user experience. That was
it like the screen and interface inside? You mean like getting?
I'll tell you exactly what it was.
Okay.
I'll tell you. I'll give you the three things that made me loathe that experience every time I get in the car. Number one, there's no buttons on the key fob. So you walk up to the car, you present yourself to the car, and it's supposed to unlock automatically. I yanked that door handle like an idiot for, you know, a good 10-second cycle before it figured out that I was there, and then finally opened the door. Number two, there's no start button in the car. You just get in and you put it in drive and you go away, right?
Yeah.
That is not a good experience, because you want to know that the car, okay, great. Everybody who's a human being at this point has gone through this experience with starting a car. You push a button or you turn a key or whatever it is you do, but there needs to be some acknowledgement that the car is now ready to drive, right?
Does it ding at you or anything?
No, that's the thing, right? So it's like, okay, well, the dash is on, I guess, right? And then the evil opposite of that is that there's no off. So you just stop driving and walk away, and there's no, like, I don't know if this car is still running, the radio's still playing. I have no idea if this is the right thing to do or not, right? To the point where when this car was delivered to me, it was delivered with an instruction on how to operate. Like, that's never good.
No,
that's never good. No. And then finally, you know, in order to open the charger flap, you need to push a button on a screen to make that work. And then you need to push the button again to make it close. Like, unacceptable.
That's going to be awesome in Portland when it's icy.
Yeah.
It's frozen shut.
So you know, what has happened is we have seen over the last 10 or 15 years, a lot of software developers becoming automotive engineers and product planners. And they think this stuff is just the greatest, man. And in all practical terms, it's not. So now what you've seen is nobody bought the Volvo EX30. And that's a shame, because I typically love Volvo products. They make the best seats in the business. They drive great. I had no issues with the way the vehicle drove. It was the user experience that was the problem. And I think that's an issue that is almost unique to a lot of EV products now, is that the user experience is not that great. We don't need to reinvent everything.
No, but that's the thing, and it's affecting everyone, because there's this idea that high tech equals complexity,
right?
And that it's not true. Actually, it's much harder to do simple, which is, you know, when you compare, a really crappy example would be like Mac OS to Windows, right? Windows is just this sprawling octopus of complexity. Sure. Things break. It's hard to use. And Mac OS is a lot more streamlined, and they're both similar, like based on a similar kernel going back for a few years. They both have some basis in like Unix or Linux or something. So it's the Mac approach is a lot more polished and streamlined. They spend a lot of attention on making it easy to use, and sometimes they miss, but generally, you can know that it's going to be something that somebody's tried it and gone, does this suck or not? And just really make it kind of elegant, where that user experience thing, and other automakers had the issue because they were chasing Tesla again, and just Tesla has a lot of like the yesterday's idea of tomorrow in it, where everything is on a screen and you touch the screen for all these cool functions and it automatically does stuff, and that's all well and good, but did you try it? Did you think about using this with gloves? Did you like how responsive is it? Our Grand Cherokee drives me nuts because it's got the latest version of Uconnect in it, which it's like Uconnect 5. That thing you'll start the car and sometimes you can't adjust, you can't even switch from screen to screen for like a mile and a half, and it pisses me off because I'm just like, if you're going to put that in the car, it should be ready to go when you turn the car on. I shouldn't have to wait for it to boot up. It should have no morning sickness. Like, it should work from the moment I'm ready to go. And I don't know that they take that same approach, but it really does. It makes a crappy experience. Yeah. And
I know I sound like the world's oldest man.
You don't sound like an old guy. Like, we could talk about how, like, well, back in the day it used to be simple. We had buttons and stuff, and some of that sounds like old man yelling at clouds, but also look at an airplane cockpit, right?
Yeah,
the controls are standardized. Why are they standardized? Because when you change things, you wind up with plane crashes.
Absolutely.
So, like,
absolutely. And I think making things multi-layered, multi-steps when you're hurtling down the road at 75 miles an hour is never a good idea. Right. I kind of go back to like, old Mercedes E-Class.
Mm-hmm.
Think about what that was. And they were button heavy for a long time, but the major functions were all kind of universal and you understood how they worked.
Yep. Old Volvos were the same way.
Volvos, same way. And now, like, you're starting to see, I know Subaru in the latest generation of the Outback, first of all, the screen's oriented in landscape, which is nice.
Versus portrait,
and then secondly, all of those things that were functions, in the screen are now moved back to buttons, which, like, that's an indication that, yes, we didn't think this through. And that's not just Subaru. That's kind of across the industry.
My Ranger's the same way, and I've ranted to my kids about this. They're tired of me hearing me say it. But if it's on one screen, and I want to get back to something else, like climate, for example, if I'm on the radio and I have to go to climate, I've got to press the screen like 3 times, like instead of just pressing a button once. Like, it's distraction. The thing is, like, that's one of the things that I think automakers leaned into because it's less expensive. Yeah. You don't need all the buttons, and for different markets, you don't need different languages and different, left hand drive, right hand drive orientation. So I can understand the reason for it, but it's kind of like they just, like, you guys need to try this out. The remote unlock, like, where it just does stuff, right? Where it just unlocks, it's ready to go. It doesn't shut off. That's a very Euro thing. Like, I've seen that with BMW as well, where, like, you just, like,
is the radio's on? Right. Is it supposed to be on? But here's the other thing, like, with that one in particular, it only seems to happen about 30% of the time. If it was 100% of the time, I could live with it, but it was like, well, okay, why is this radio randomly on?
We built in the random function generator to keep you amused.
So, I always remember I had this conversation with Terry McGee from Hemmings Motor News years ago. And he said, look at the interior of, like, 1995 Buick Park Ave Ultra.
Mm-hmm.
And that thing is built, it's built to look okay, but it's built for durability. You need to sit in this seat 900,000 times in all weather conditions. And that's why it looks the way it does. And that never extended to all of this other stuff, which is, like, it's not really built for the long haul. That your phone is going to be no good in 5 years. you know you're going to have to replace it. And that's the same thing with all of the touchscreen stuff. You know it's not going to be good 10 years from now. So there's this like built-in obsolescence that I think is a challenge too. And I think for customers it's going to be unpleasant.
It is. I mean, there's this when the screens die, they're really expensive. One of our older cars, the nav, you need to update the maps in it because it doesn't get them over the air. Right. Well, the vendor put out a bad update that made the nav completely useless. Not just old maps, but no maps. So, like, their solution for that was we'll replace the head unit. No.
Yeah.
Not going to do that. And now that the screens are a lot more integrated, it becomes even more difficult to replace a piece. But that issue as well is they all decided they were tech companies at a certain point. And the problem is auto feels like it's a big industry. They have some swagger. They feel like they're a big kind of big player.
Right.
They sort of are. But games is enormous. Yeah. And you're not going to get the best people in auto when you've got the games industry out there that has much better working conditions, much more fun. Right. They can pay you more.
Not in Detroit.
Right, not in Detroit. And that's why there's a lot of automaker stuff like out in Silicon Valley. Yeah. But even at that, you have to bring that to Detroit, and then just the like making it work from fantasy to reality. And there's a combo. It's you've got the tech people, but you've also got like human factors, which is all the stuff we were talking about with buttons and those studies about usability. Those were the things that they'd done for decades that makes a big difference. So it's a difficult thing. The pay is not great. The locations aren't great. The talent decides they don't want to deal with that. And auto company politics, which are super duper fun.
It's like the government. Yeah.
And so like they wind up like, why would I do that to myself? Why would I go live in Michigan winters and deal with that, like just difficulty getting anything done and no respect and just lots of constraints. It's neat and it's interesting, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
And that was one of the reasons I liked Slate's approach, where they bring your own thing. We'll have buttons for the stuff that we need to have, and because I don't use half the stuff anyway.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like when you look at the sales of things like headrest media players that used to be a big deal in luxury cars. That's all over now. Like everybody just brings their own device, so you can see doing that. I don't need it at this point. Like, I'm not buying an XM subscription. No. Who has listened to terrestrial radio in the last? I mean, maybe AM to get the traffic report, but
and the gold. You need to know where to buy your gold.
Right. Yeah. Where do I sign up for Cars for Kids again? So I see a lot of that kind of that needs to change, right?
Yeah.
So you bring your own device, and you might have speakers and a Bluetooth setup in the car, but that's it.
Yeah.
So one of the things we do, when we talk about, when we talk to people on the show, is we ask what people are driving, and you mentioned your Ranger. I'm interested in your experience in that truck.
It's a good little truck. I mean, it's got 52,000 miles on it now.
Yeah.
So it was a nice one, like the nicest one beyond. It's a Lariat, actually.
Lariat.
So it has the leather covered dash.
Yeah.
And leather seats. There's a 21, so it was supposed to have stuff like dynamic cruise, which just the chips and cameras were not available. Right. So it doesn't have that, but it's got the FX4 4x4 suspension with Fox shocks and stuff. It's nice and tight still. It drives fine. I don't love the fuel economy. It's like 20, like low 20s, which is it's okay. But it's a good little truck. It does what I need it to do. I actually had a good experience at Tasca with it, with buying it. And it didn't come with a hitch, so I had them put on a hitch, put in a bed liner, or just roll it into the monthly payment. It's fine. And I actually like the new one better.
I think that's a great truck.
Yeah.
I really do. I had one, I don't know, a couple of years ago in a raging snowstorm and drove it up to your neighborhood. I went up to Wachusett with it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
And it was fantastic. It was a really great truck, and it was the super cab, which
Yep.
you know, a lot of people are driving around the full.
And that's what I've got is the crew cab. Yeah.
Yeah, the crew cab, but I really liked it, and I know it's the price that keeps it out of more driveways, because at that point it's like, well, can I get into an F-150? Maybe, you could really at one point, but maybe not now. And then when the Maverick came along, it was like, well, this
Right.
is going to be where, cheapskates like me are gonna have.
I would have gone for the Maverick if it was available.
Yeah.
It wasn't even out yet. I was actually cross shopping with because I was trying to use my employee discount. So I was trying to get a Bronco Sport.
Yep.
But like the first edition with the cool graphics and stuff.
Yep.
And that I just couldn't find one. Nobody wanted to deal with the employee discount thing because they don't locked into a price.
No, it was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, now you could work yourself a pretty decent deal, I would think, at the moment.
But it was a good choice, and the newer one, the interior's a little cheap in this version of the Ranger. The door panels are hard, and it doesn't feel as expensive as it was. So that kind of annoys me. But I think the newer one has better materials and is more refined. It's essentially still the same truck. They didn't do a huge platform revision, and they honestly don't need to.
Right.
And even this one was a revision of an earlier truck. It's proven stuff. It's been around for a while in the rest of the world, and it is actually the number 2 pickup behind Tacoma globally in that class. So it's a
right
good
size. It just doesn't feel enormous, but it also feels like I had an '89 F-150, and it almost feels like that size.
It does. Yeah, it does.
And I just think it's a great truck for there's a lot of I wish it had a 5-speed or 6-speed or whatever, but I would live with a Ranger for sure.
I wish it had a manual.
Look at, like, what's my auto parts store driving around? Like, what are they using for delivery vehicles? And it's those and Mavericks.
And Mavericks,
Yeah. When they couldn't get Mavericks, they were buying Rangers. So.
Yeah, but I do wish it had a manual. Even the rattly Mazda manual you probably got in your F-150.
That's exactly the one.
Yeah. But other than that, it's fine. The thing that I don't love about it is some of the decisions they made for maintenance are pretty dumb, and I think it's just the engine that had to go into it for this market. So it's got the 2.3 turbo. To change the oil where the filters look at, it's just designed to spill everywhere. And they actually installed like a drip rail, so they know it's going to drip, and they want to just direct the drip elsewhere. And you have to remove the fender liner to reach in and get the filter. So behind the left side front wheel, you can't go from under. There's a skid plate because it's an FX4, so I have to drop the skid plate. So we have a 13 Grand Cherokee. I can change the oil in that in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, that's an inexcusable sin, really. It's just like there are still plenty of people doing this on their own. You got to make it, relatively easy. Like my son's driving we bought him a 2010 Saab 9.3 from a mutual.
The 2000, is that the last body style, or is that
last body style? And so basically, all GM. It's a Cobalt SS engine basically, and a case-in transmission. That thing to change the oil, I mean, the filters, like, it's right there. It's the easiest thing to work on. I love it. So.
Well, and it's a lot of the parts, it's all Opel parts, right?
Sure.
So some of them come in Chevy boxes because that was a Malibu, right?
Yep.
It's
a lot of
that's
GM.
Epsilon, Saturn.
A lot of GM in there.
Yeah.
So.
That's a good car.
I appreciate you coming on to talk to us. I hate to tie you up, but it was great to chat. And I'm looking forward to seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, I'd love to come back on again. It's fun to chat. I don't get to chat about cars as much as I used to. So
Yeah.
anytime I'll come back and we'll talk about our grumpy old man takes.
Yeah, right, man. Good to see you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.